So if you remember in the last class, we were dealing with this question of the phenomenon of resonance, where if you have two objects with the same frequency or a whole number multiple of the same frequency, and one object is vibrating independently of the other object, then what happens is after a little while, even though there is no physical contact, you find that this object also starts to vibrate. And this can be checked by stopping this one from vibrating and seeing that the one that was not vibrating earlier also starts to vibrate, oscillate. Now, the question that we are trying to answer is, why does this happen? And like Abhi was talking to me after the class, and he reminded me that we had dealt with this phenomenon in class 9 also. Although it's not part of the syllabus, then I guess we just discussed it. So if an explanation can be given by one of you who remember the logic behind it, then we can take it forward from there. So the question we are trying to answer is, if you have another one with a whole number ratio of the same frequency, of the original frequency, let's say that this is x hertz, then this is also x hertz. This will be, let's say, 2x hertz, right? And there is another one that has got nothing to do with this. It's like y hertz. Okay, so why does this vibrate? If you give the correct reasoning, then it should be also possible to use the same reasoning to explain why this one will also vibrate and why this one will not vibrate. So can somebody
So waiting room.
yeah, as of now there is nobody in the waiting room. Can somebody just have a look at the participants list and tell me who's not present there? Isha happens to be with me in the classroom. So others, please tell me. I think Shravan is not there, right? Or is he?
Yeah, I'm just sending the link to him.
Okay.
Sir, is not there, I think.
Who's not there?
No, he just came. I thought Adarsh wasn't there.
Yagya isn't there.
That's also not there.
Yagya, Shravan.
So I have a question.
Yeah, Ishan, is that you? Just give your name before you speak, please. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. It's Sean. So my question is, like, resonance. Like, if you think of it in just like as as atoms. So what exactly is happening? Is it like the lattices are moving, and that's why there's resonance? Like, why does the natural frequency exist in the first place? Like, why at some specific frequency? Is it something to do with the atomic lattices or something?
I guess you could go there also with the explanation, but suffice to say that if the object is made of the same material and it has the same dimensions, then it will resonate with the same frequency. So it's enough to say that the material and the dimensions with which the object has been made, if they match, they vibrate. So that is at a macroscopic level. I do not know how you will take it.
But I wasn't asking.
Yeah, I don't know how you will take it.
I wasn't asking this based on the explanation. I was just asking for curiosity.
Generally, yeah, okay.
Not because of.
I think that may be something, first of all, beyond the scope of what we need to discuss over here. And I can also say that I'm not sure about how that works. We will have to look at things like the elasticity of the material, the tensile strength, and that will give us a picture of the frequency with which it oscillates. And the frequency with which it oscillates produces a certain sound when it is placed in an appropriate medium. So why does an object oscillate at a certain frequency? I think you'll have to look at the properties of the material themselves to kind of start talking about that. Okay, so nobody's ready to give an explanation for why this happens. You can start us off, somebody.
Wait, So actually, wait. I think you could tie it tie it in this explanation, because if you think about it, if it is like lattices stretching and compressing, which is causing the natural frequency, let's just say it does,
Yeah.
then it makes sense, right? Because if something has a value that has a simple ratio correspondence to it,
Yeah.
then the stretching of the the lattices, it's
Yeah.
happening right together, right? So at one point they will overlap, and that's why there'll be a higher amplitude, and at one point there'll be a low, but then it'll be there'll be a proper pattern. That's why there's this resonant thing, right? This resonance.
Okay. Yeah. So all right. I accept that argument, but let us try to understand it at a mechanistic level. Okay. So one of the explanations that are given that may help us to kind of understand this is, let's say that you are playing with the swing after lunch, the one that is there in the side of the DH. Okay. So there's a swing, and one of you is sitting on the swing, okay, and holding it like that, and there's another person standing behind you who is helping this person to swing. All right. Now when the swing starts oscillating, oops, okay, and comes back and forth, right? What can you say about the frequency of this person's oscillation and the push that this person provides in terms of time? Okay, so assume that, of course, the objective is to make the swing go faster and faster, or rather higher and higher. So at what frequency must this person push the swing so that the swing starts oscillating more and more? So the frequency of the swing and the frequency of the push, how would you compare those two? If you're able to understand that, then I guess you can explain this. Okay, since we are all in a very wonderfully communicative mood today,
Can you repeat it?
What will you
Can you repeat it?
box? Greater than, lesser than, equal to? Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I said take the example of you on a lazy afternoon after lunch, maybe it's the weekend, playing with the swing in the side of the dining hall, if you remember where that is. And there's you and your friend is sitting on the swing and you are giving the push. The objective obviously is to make the swing go higher and higher. So there is a certain frequency with which the swing goes around, and there is a certain frequency with which you provide the push. My question is, if this is the frequency of the swing and this is the frequency of the push, how does the frequency of the swing and the push compare with each other?
Equal.
They should be equal, right?
Yeah.
Right? You get the idea?
Oh, okay. That's not.
Right? So you should obviously, and this is what people generally do, you push the swing at exactly the point in which it comes back towards you. And then when it starts going downwards, you provide the push. So therefore, what will happen is you are providing it some velocity by giving it a force, some acceleration, and therefore it gets kinetic energy, which turns into potential energy, and then it keeps swinging back and forth. And every time it comes near you, you give it a push, it goes higher and higher, up to, of course, a maximum value and all that. You don't want to kill your friend, I suppose. So now if you say, what is the comparison of this? How does understanding this help you to understand resonance? Well, it's straightforward. When these two object's natural frequency is matched, okay, let's say that one push arrives over here, okay, and right now this object is not vibrating, right? Then the push will obviously cause this tuning fork. So I'll show this in a larger manner, okay? So the compression of the air particles arrives, right? And what is happening over there is the air particles are compressed in that region. There is some elasticity, and because of that, the air particles which are pushed then try to expand. And what is there in the path? The tuning fork's body, right? This is there. So because there is a push from the particles, the tuning fork is going to move, believe it or not, ever so slightly. Yeah, tell me.
Arun, can you like turn the camera slightly upwards? Or take the board. Yeah, thanks.
So then what happens is that the tuning fork will move, maybe in the beginning just microscopically. That's not going to produce enough sound, obviously, okay? So that's fine. So nothing is happening at that point of time. It has swung a little bit, and naturally, because of its own elasticity, when the wave passes, so the wave has now moved and it has come to say there, okay? At that point of time, what will happen is the tuning fork will come back to its original position, right? Where the rarefaction is, okay? Now, as it comes back to its initial position, naturally it cannot stop there because it has now some amount of tension that has been built into it. So what it will do is it will vibrate to the other side. So it's going to go this much on the other side. Whatever extent it went to that side, it goes to this side. And then what happens is the next wave comes in. Okay, and this is at the same time. When this goes this way, comes back this way and comes to the center again, the next wave comes and hits it. Okay, now it has a certain amount of elasticity which is anyway going to carry it that side, and the wave has come and pushed it and given it a little bit more elastic potential. So this time when it vibrates, it's going to go a little bit more than what it went initially. Are you able to see this? Right? And then again it comes back. Obviously it will come back to the new position in which it has been pushed to the other side. And then the next wave comes and hits it. Okay? So in this manner, what will happen is successive waves are going to cause it to increase its elastic potential by a little bit, a microscopic bit. I mean, I shouldn't talk in terms of elastic potential in terms of microscopic bits because I'm comparing energy with dimension. But you can equate the two. The energy and the dimension will complement each other in this case. So pretty soon what will start happening is that this one also starts to vibrate. Initially the sound will be very slight, but if it goes on for a sufficient period of time, then the amplitude of this times vibration will keep increasing, and soon enough, lo and behold, this will start producing sufficient amplitude to be heard by an experimenter. Okay, so now if you stop this one from vibrating, so if you cut off all the sound on this one, right? Obviously, because of the elastic potential that this has gained, this is going to continue vibrating until the damping forces actually prevent it from, I mean, reduce the amplitude so much so that it will stop vibrating eventually. So is that clear? Do you want to ask any question based on what I have said so far? Or do you want to move on to now looking at how that works? How the two times of the frequency also works? Yes, please go ahead. Give your
What gets it to
name.
left?
Krishna,
Yeah.
what gets it to move to left? I mean, the vibration gets it to move to the right, but then should it just come to its actual position and
So
then move
if
again?
if you push the swing, will the swing go to the top and then come back and stop at the bottom?
No, but
So
this isn't really.
Inertia.
Yeah, you can say the inertial forces. But in this case, it's easy to see. Now, if you stretch a rubber band, right? If you stretch a rubber band, oh, I happen to have one. Right? If you stretch a rubber band and you leave it, it's not going to come to its initial position and stop, right? Its elastic potential is going to cause it to snap together. So if I do that, it's going to hit and then it goes back to a minimum position and then it comes back to its normal position. So that's exactly what's happening in this case also. It will go to the extreme. When it comes back, it won't stop here. It will go here and then come back to the middle position. That's when the next wave will hit. Is that clear, Krishna? You follow that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other question? Nothing? So then we'll move on. So it's obvious that the driving frequency has to be the same as the driven frequency. And when the two frequencies are matched, resonance takes place, which means that without it actually exerting a force directly on it, in terms of a physical contact, you can cause this one to start vibrating. And there is one experiment illustrated. I've never tried it because I think we have the equipment. I don't know why we haven't tried it yet. If you have this kind of a setup where actually I'll show it to you in this itself. If you have a sound box, which is just a hollow wooden box which has been placed at the bottom, and the tuning fork is kind of fitted into it. Usually there's a hole that is drilled into it and you push the tuning fork into it. And there is the other setup also made exactly the same way. Okay. Then the effect is far more apparent because there is a larger surface area over here inside this box. So when this starts vibrating, the vibrations over here are produced like this. And that causes this box to vibrate because this tuning fork is fitted to this box. That will also start vibrating. But I feel that I'm showing this illustration to you because it's given as an explanation in the textbook. Apparently it works better when you do it like this, but I want to show it to you directly as a relationship between the two tuning forks itself, why that happens. And so now you can say why the sympathetic strings in the sitar are there, because it kind of enhances the richness of the sound. When you plug the main string, the sympathetic vibrations of the string underneath it enhance the sound. So the two strings are vibrating together and it creates a kind of harmony. Okay, so now we have to talk in terms of why does this start vibrating? Because pretty soon you will find that this one also starts vibrating, although it is twice the frequency or some whole number ratio. You can keep it 3 times, 4 times, whatever. It will still work. Can you try to work on that explanation from this swing example itself?
It's like, so basically if I'm pushing it once and it comes back, but then I don't push it then, and the second time it comes back, I push it, he's still gonna go quite high, right? It's not like I'm pushing right in the middle of his swing.
Exactly.
That's why.
Right. So so comparing it in terms of frequencies, if I push this swing only once every 2 times, your friend comes back. Okay, which means my frequency is half. So I can either keep my frequency as half. So this doesn't work now. Okay, or I can say that if the frequency of this swing is twice the frequency with which I push, it's still going to increase the amplitude of the person who is swinging. It may not happen as fast as it happens in this case, but it is going to happen. Why? Because it's here, it gets pushed, it comes back, it comes back, it comes back, and then when it's in the center, the next wave comes. You get it? Because the frequency is 2 times. So there are 2 oscillations that happen before it comes to the center, and then the next wave comes. So the in-between part, when it comes, there is no push. So it will only go as much and then come back. And then when it comes back to the center, the next push comes. So then again, it's going to increase the amplitude. So that is why whole number ratios will work perfectly fine. You get that? Any questions about that?
I don't get how whole number ratios only should work. Shouldn't the others move too?
It won't be in
We
sync
will
with
take a
that.
yeah, if somebody else wants to explain that, I'll be happy.
Okay, Krishna, okay, let's go back to the swing example. Now, suppose you start, okay, you push your friend, but right in the middle of him or her going up, you start pushing again. Is it really that useful? Is the energy you put so efficiently used?
So, so let's say you want to, 2 possibilities. You tell me which one you like better. You want to stop the person from swinging, okay, and you do it in a slightly unconventional way. Well, if you want to stop it, what you do is you just grab hold of the ropes, and that's how you stop the person. But let us say that you want to stop the person so that when they come swinging down, instead of pushing it at that point, you give a push at the lowest point. Okay. So then obviously, as they are coming back and you give a push at the lowest point, it's going to reduce their amplitude, correct? Or you're blindfolded. Okay, so there's a blindfold on your eyes. And then you're expected to push the person swinging. So you don't know at what frequency. Of course, you can feel the swing and then you can figure it out. But the first couple of instances, you don't know at what frequency they are swinging. So you don't get the push right. I think that's stretching the analogy a little bit. Let us come to this one. Okay, so what happens when, let us say it's not a whole number ratio, okay? So which means that when the swing is, so let's say initially the first wave comes and it starts swinging outwards. Okay, now when it is right at the other end, the next wave comes. Okay, then what happens is as it's coming back, the next wave comes, so it kind of dampens the effect of the first wave. All right, so you're not going to get this periodic push at the right time. Where is the right time? The right time is when you're right at the middle, and then you get a push, you go further. But if you get the push when you're here, or you get the push when you're here, then it's going to be a damping force. The next wave that comes, and we are talking compressions and rarefactions over here, the next wave of compression that comes is going to interfere with the natural frequency of the object. So that is why Y frequency, which has got no relationship with the X frequency, is not going to start vibrating. Did you kind of get that idea?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else who's listening in has a question or not clear about it or has some observation that you want to make? Please speak now.
So, sir,
Yeah. Name, please.
Avantika.
Yeah, Avantika.
No, so a fork with half the frequency should also work, right?
Half should also work. That's right. So I was hoping somebody would mention that. Yes, half the frequency should also work perfectly fine. It's just that it will, wait a minute, will half work? You go here and you come here. Yes, it will work.
So it's Kian.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of like a funny question, but using enough physics, can you, using resonance,
Yeah.
you can use it to, what do you call it? To make somebody say something that they don't mean to.
We don't need the help of physics and resonance to do that. We just need some.
Yeah, but You
Good
can.
psychology. Yeah. Yeah. Well, involuntarily, you mean?
Yes.
Hmm. Well, I don't know how you could make that happen, but yeah, I guess technically it is possible. But not so sure. I can't begin to think about the biological constraints that come into place over there, leave alone the psychological constraints. But yes, you can force people to say things, but not necessarily by using resonance. One thing that you can say is that you say that when you meet somebody for the first time, like a teacher or a friend or a new classmate or whatever, we talk in terms of vibing, right? So you say that we vibe so well, the vibes are good. You're talking about resonance. What you're basically saying is like, my frequency is more or less that other person's frequency too. So it's like there are things that I say and I do, which also triggers a similar response in the other person. Or I can recognize when the other person speaks, does something, I can feel that person's frequency. What you're basically saying is psychologically, I see the similarities. So we get excited about that idea. So vibing and resonance in a kind of a personality-based manner is also a possibility. But we are using this concept. We're using the concept of resonance, not in terms of natural vibrations, but in terms of psychological vibrations, whatever that might be. Okay. So let's kind of look at the textbook. Somebody please keep track of the time, so we stop on time. We're supposed to stop at 55, right? Yeah. So yeah, so we have about 5 minutes left. So the resonance section in the textbook kind of explains all of these things. There is this experiment with the sound box, as I had mentioned to you earlier. Resonance in terms of pendulum. So this is again a kind of question that they like to ask quite often in the board examinations. So it will be a good thing if you know how this works. This can easily be shown. So let's say that you have pendulums. You have a string. Okay, so this is not an object which has, it's not a rigid object, it's a string. And you have suspended strings of various lengths on this. Okay, so you have A, B, C, D, and E. So the length of A is equal to the length of E. Okay, and the length of A is half the length of D. Do you get these two conditions? Are you able to see those two conditions clearly?
Yeah, sir.
The length, meaning the length from the top to the center of the bob. Okay, now if you start oscillating the pendulum A, right? The question is, which pendulum or pendulums will also swing in sympathetic vibrations? Okay, the length of B, the length of C have got no relationship, no whole number relationship with the length of A. So what is your answer?
None, right? Like no, nothing else is swing.
The length of A and the length of E are the same.
Oh, okay.
D and E.
Yeah, the answer is right there. Both D and E will start vibrating. Why? Because of the same reason. So the one question could be, tell which ones will start oscillating. And another question can be, state the phenomenon that causes this to happen. So what is the name of the phenomenon? Resonance. Do you get it? 2 marks for the taking. In fact, 3 marks, because there are 3 points. 1, 2, and then the phenomenon. Easy peasy. You should be able to score the marks. Did everybody get this? It's an often repeated question in the boards. If you didn't get it, ask now, we can clarify. Hello? Are we all awake?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right now, there are just 41 participants, including Isha. Can you all just type present now, please? Yes, thank you, it's coming in. Diva, Vineet, Parisha, Raghav, Shreyansh, Madhav, Tanvi, Manya, Sonia, very funny, Krishna, Ishrat. Arav. Okay, so are we still missing Yagya and Shravan? Shravan, are you here? Doesn't sound like he's here.
So I think
No, none of them.
that's why he's not coming.
What happened?
I think Yagya's sick.
Yagya is not well, I know that. So Yagya can be left out of this. Shravan, he logged in once, I don't know what happened after that. Right now the number has dropped to 40. Gosh, I don't know what's going on. Okay, so just a couple of minutes. The next thing that we will have to do is to look at some phenomenon associated with resonance, in particular that Verrazzano-Narrows accident that took place, in which a newly constructed bridge collapsed because of resonance. Basically what happened was that the engineers didn't take resonance caused by the wind into consideration. They may have, but they didn't expect it to happen. And so what happened was the gusts of wind that was coming up the river and the natural frequency of the bridge unfortunately matched. And the increase in the amplitude of the bridge vibrating went to such a level that eventually the bridge lost its structural integrity and then completely collapsed. So there is a video of that. I would like you people to Google on, to show on YouTube. It's called the Verrazzano-Narrows. That's the name of the, I think the 2 areas that was connected by the bridge. I don't remember the name of the river on which it was there. But look up this video on YouTube. I'll probably send you a link also in the classroom. And then we can kind of briefly discuss that in the next class. So that's it for today. In the next class, we will look at some of the examples that are given for either the application or the negative effects of resonance. And then we have the exercise 7B. I will set you the assignment and put it in the Google Classroom. You should receive it shortly. And then we will take it from there. Any other questions today? Anything else to talk about? Any questions, doubts? All right.